Hey everybody, it's Jody and Paul, and welcome to the Financial Dads Podcast, Encore Edition. We're taking a break this week, and we'll be back soon. We thought we'd revisit our first episode, which was the mortgage payoff. And Jody, I don't know about you, this is really resonating with me now, especially during the times we're in with COVID and everything else going on. I gave it a brief listen to kind of prepare for our conversation today. And what's interesting is it was so bad, it was good. In terms of we were so unprepared, no script, no edits. We just posted it and jumped into the pool when we finally said to each other, let's just do a podcast. We were overthinking this. And now we're, this past week we did our 60th episode. So Jody, what are your thoughts when it comes to the mortgage payoff?
Well, we'll leave the technical aspects of what you're about to listen to aside, because I think half the time I sound like I'm down in a hole somewhere and you can't even hear me. But we've learned along the way. But I also remember, Paul, using this topic to kind of kick things off. We were talking about jumping into the deep end with a financial conversation, and I remember you being so excited about being able to talk about this and share your knowledge about this, and me being so excited listening to you talk about how you accomplished this and the change that it brought to your life and to your family's life. I think looking back, it like I said, it's at the time seemed like jumping in the deep end. Now it seems like the perfect place to have started.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, looking back, and we've talked about this in many, many episodes, and we refer back to this in little pieces here and there, is probably the best financial decision I ever made. Making that commitment to getting it done. And there was a lot of people that told me, don't do it. Your money could be better used in other places. You can invest it. Why, mortgage money's cheap. You get the tax advantage. And now you dial the clock ahead. No more tax advantage, right? That's gone. We're in COVID. Jobs are, right now, I'm thankful and grateful. My wife and I are still working, but that could change. I'm liking the comfort of having the mortgage paid off. So I'm not trying to rub it into people's faces out there in the virtual world. That's not my intention. I just want to convey that I'm very happy sitting where we are at this point in terms of comfort level. Not having to pay the mortgage, especially during these times of all the things going on in the world, politically, medically, all these different things. For me, I'm taking comfort in the fact that it's gone.
Yeah, when times are uncertain, having fewer or no bills to pay. Well, we'll never have no bills to pay, only when we're dead, right?
Right.
But having as few bills as possible to pay in the times of uncertainty is probably the thing that can make you sleep best at night, right?
Absolutely. So with that, thanks again, everybody out there, and we hope that you enjoy this encore presentation of The Mortgage Payoff by the Financial Dads.
Welcome to the Financial Dads Podcast with Paul Fagan and Jody Fisher. This is the podcast for all dads who want to succeed with life's topics, especially related to family and finances. Now here's my dad, Paul Fagan.
Our podcast. Hello, my name is Paul, and I want to introduce Jody Fisher. Hey, Jody.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Paul. How you doing?
Not too bad. Trying to get a little bit of my nervous jitters out of the way as we go through putting together this podcast. So my name is Paul. I'm married with 2 kids, normal middle-class guy of sorts, depending on where you live and what part of the country you're in. I consider myself kind of being in the middle, right? So thankful and grateful for what I have, and just always interested in finance and how things work. So I've always had this passion for anything and everything finance and actually technology, right? So combining the two in this way through podcasting seemed to be a natural evolution. So Jody, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? And Jody, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Paul. Yeah, so my name's Jody Fisher. Paul and I known each other, I guess, for in college, and obviously did each other in the same universe. But I so we kind of both got around to listening to uh, Ramsey, which everybody in the finance world seems to know. And you and I kind of did through his teachings and through sort of his philosophy about money. And we've been talking about this idea for a while, and thought that maybe we should just start to commit some thoughts to a podcast, and that's what brings us here. In terms of who I am, so Paul and I are very similar. We're both married. We both have kids. We both live in the suburban outliers of New York, and we're just finding our way through the world here. So we're interested in just talking here and sharing our ideas about finance, and thought it would be fun to just have a discussion and share it with everybody else.
Cool. That's great, Jody. Yep. I think you read my mind. That's exactly where we're at. And I think the first hot topic, which Jody and I have spent a lot of time talking about, and sometimes it's a controversial topic, depending on who you speak to, and that's the mortgage payoff, right? The big question, right? If you own a house, is it better to pay it off or not pay it off, right? Extend that debt and let someone else sit with that debt like a bank for forever, or just get it done. Try to rip it off as fast as possible, like a Band-Aid, so you can get on with your life, so to speak. And there seems to be a lot of different viewpoints on this, and they're all very interesting viewpoints with their own merits. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to everyone's personal view on this. And Jody, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on the mortgage payoff.
Oh, I agree. You want to pay down any debt, whether it's a mortgage or a credit card or anything. You want to get out as possible and free up the money that you'd be paying to debt service, not just paying the principal, any suck on your finances. Get that out of the way as fast as possible and put that money towards something else. I mean, look, we all bust our butts all week long, making money and paying for what we need to pay for, everything from mortgage to insurance to our kids to everything. And so why not put that money towards you instead of towards, somebody else's livelihood? So yeah, I totally agree. I think, Paul, you and I, our specific circumstances are very, very different. And I'm interested to talk about how you've gone about running your debt pay down versus how I have, because I think we've taken, while we share the same philosophy, I think we've taken two very different approaches to it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And in my current situation, my wife and I got on the same page in terms of paying off the mortgage. We paid it off about a year ago. And it definitely wasn't incredibly, yes. Although Dave Ramsey would not ever have me on his show because, quite frankly, because I still own credit cards, they're very taboo in his world, right? So I kind of look at Dave Ramsey, even though I think he's brilliant, along with the Susie Ormans, and yes, and the other financial experts out there. I try to use them as a guidepost, right? So once again, he would not have me on his show simply because I still own credit cards, because I see value in credit cards, right? If they're used properly. He will differ, and that's the whole point, right? Is to be able to take bits and pieces from some of these different philosophies and weave them into your own. For us, it was really me driving it. My wife really didn't have a strong passion to pay off the mortgage. I think she's seeing the value in it now, but I think she's like everyone else. You have this mortgage and you have it until you retire, and hopefully when you get close to retire, you pay it off and you're done. And I looked at it very differently. It took a while for us to get off of a lot of procrastination, analysis paralysis. We had money sitting on the sidelines that we had saved over the years. We're not big Disney people. We're not big new car people. We just would just chugging along, and then it just took some time for me to get over the fact of taking money out of one place and putting it into the house, right? And which was always something. I'm not sure why I hesitated on it, right? I guess just because the numbers are so big, right? And that's probably a reason why I was hesitant. But once I got over that fear, and I just started chunking down and then paying off, and I was making concerted efforts to track it very closely. I had a spreadsheet that I found on the web that would every time I made an extra payment, no matter what the extra payment amount was, it would give me a true picture of what I owed left on the mortgage, and that mapped almost to a penny to what the mortgage servicer had on their website. So it almost became a game every month, just paying as much as I can, just keep whittling it down. Tax returns would come in, tax refunds, little something from work, whatever it took. I just keep chunking down until we got to the final goal line of getting, of slaying the dragon, so to speak, and just sending that last check in. I think we settled up. They sent us a check for $75 because I overpaid by $75, and we were done. So that was the great part about it. So I guess, Jody, what's your current situation with your mortgage? I know you're passionate about this topic as well. So where are you at in terms of your family and your mortgage situation?
Yeah, so we're still doing the traditional approach to paying the mortgage every month. Our situation quite different. It was, if you rewind the clock a couple of years, we had a couple of different job scenarios and employment scenarios going on where my wife was unemployed for a little while, and then we shifted jobs a little bit. Long story short, we instead of paying down the mortgage, we found ourselves in a place where we needed to launch ourselves in a different career direction. So even though we had done a very good job paying down lots of other debts, got rid of credit cards, things like that, and we don't use credit cards anymore. We use cash. We'll occasionally put a large purchase on a credit card to then immediately pay it off with cash.
Right. Get the warranty out of it and get the points.
You get things like that, and also, frankly, it's sort of a little bit of a safety net where if you need to, or if it's a large purchase, you need to make a return.
Absolutely.
The return happens on the credit card and it's not happening out of your checking account, which can screw up other bill payments. So that's the one way we will use credit cards. Other than that, we don't use credit cards anymore. But just pivoting back to the mortgage, we, I guess, it's a very long story. And I guess here's the thing that I really wanted to talk about. Was before we even get to paying off a mortgage, just the concept of budgeting. And you talked about this a little bit, Paul. And being really intentional with your money. That's what really struck me when I started listening to that Dave Ramsey podcast is more than him talking about paying off your mortgage or paying off your credit cards or X or Y or Z. I think his umbrella message, what really resonated with me, and I guess maybe with you too, is being intentional with your money. Creating a budget and then executing that budget. And winning with money is really the thing that I took to heart. If you rewind the clock as much as maybe about 8 years, my wife and I, before we had kids, our son is 10 now, so I guess we're going back 10 years. Looking at two people married, no kids, 2 full-time salaries, gigantic house, gigantic utility bills, and just mortgaged up to the eyeballs, right? And when our son was born, I put all this stuff down in an Excel spreadsheet, and I went through every single bill and every single payment, and I mapped it out over the course of, I think at the time it was like 3 years. And I literally saw our financial truck drive off a cliff at about 18 months. With the payments that we had set up. And I was like, holy crap, we're making more than $200,000 a year and we're going to be broke in 18 months. This is crazy. So just that revelation was enough for me to say, okay, we need to start being intentional with our money here. We need to start spending smarter. And so we actually sold that giant house. We downsized into a smaller house. Yep, we downsized to a smaller house, which is a perfectly wonderful house. And we actually, we like this house more. We have a better backyard. We're in a better school district. We pay less money in mortgage and taxes. I mean, it was a smarter move. We learned the hard way, but we find ourselves in a much better place. And then from that point forward, having that Excel spreadsheet, that budget, being able to pay that stuff down pay down every month. We spent the next few years eliminating every single piece of revolving debt that we had. We got it down to where it was just a mortgage. And that's kind of where we found ourselves up until 2 years ago. And then I'll pick up the story that I left a little while ago, which was we had some unemployment scenarios going on. We had to pivot a little bit with our careers. We actually tapped into, and maybe we can save this for a later show, but we actually tapped into some retirement savings to jumpstart my business that I have now, which you'll have, people will jump out of their skyscrapers going, what, you took out your retirement money at
what are you doing
at a 50% penalty? You're crazy. And you know what? I parlayed it into a business now that's been running for 2.5 years, and it's completely self-sufficient. So in my mind, using that money was a smart move, because it's created this life now that we have for ourselves, which is fantastic, and it's not commuting on the train anymore. It's not losing 3 hours, to a job anymore. I'm much more excited about my career. My wife is much more excited about hers. So that's a very long answer about your question to me about what's the situation with our mortgage. We're still paying a monthly mortgage, because we've done other things with our money that have created a better life for us and to get us to where we are now. So now it becomes, okay, where do we go from here? What do we spend the next 10 years doing with our money? And all of that opens up with that first move of putting everything down on that spreadsheet, like you said.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because I didn't realize to the depth of what you went through with that. Now it's really enlightening after you're talking about it, and getting more detail. I do have I'll call it a family dashboard. I'm guilty of not having a monthly budget. We sort of have, once again, some guideposts. I have a tracker which tracks everything at a high level. I have a dashboard that allows me to see everything. I enter things into one part of the spreadsheet, and through the 15 tabs in the sheet, it filters through, right? And it gives me, this is where you are with retirement. This is where you are with any kind of debt. There's no debt right now, but we do carry some level of debt month to month on bills and stuff like that go through the credit card. That's how we operate the household. But that's one great scenario that you painted, was the fact that, the mortgage payoff for you guys is not as critical as it once was, because you had higher priorities, right? So, and I think that leads to the prioritization for us. For me personally, and my wife was very, even though she didn't really understand it, she was very supportive of it. I said, I want to get rid of this mortgage, right? I had a similar situation, right? Job is always teetering, right? Being in financial technology, getting older, all those things come into play. And the thought of having a mortgage while being out of a job just frightened the heck out of me. And that was one of the motivators to kind of just finally put the pin in the balloon and just get rid of the mortgage once and for all. The funny part is it didn't stop us, because there's still a long road ahead financially for the family, right? There's colleges to pay for my 2 kids, other things that probably will come into play over time. God forbid any illness or anything like that, any kind of catastrophic situation. But for the most part, right now, we're pretty comfortable in the fact that we could just do things without having to worry about that monthly payment. So that's been good. But not to switch gears here, but I am. I have a number of friends who are accountants, right? And I don't know if you've gotten this, Jody, but we have a dear friend. We won't mention his name, but scoffs at the fact of paying off a mortgage. Thinks it's moronic, right, to pay off a mortgage, right? Because the money could be used elsewhere to do other things, especially investing, right? Because there's this philosophy that, if you're paying 4% on your 3% on your house, and you can make 8% in the market, and so I think there's this philosophy out there, and I don't know if I could dispute it, because some people really do well, right? Where they'll say, you know what, I want to take every nickel and squeeze every nickel out of my house, and I want to take every bit of that money and invest it. What are your thoughts on that topic, in terms of taking the money, if you had money in hand, instead of investing it, and putting aside investing in your business, investing in your careers is different. I'm talking about a pure financial play of, I have, let's say, $10,000 here. Instead of putting it into my house, I'm going to put it into the stock market. What is your take on that? in terms of just from a pure financial play.
I mean, I don't think there's any argument that if you're not paying your mortgage, you've got that money to do something else with. So paying off your mortgage is a good thing. And to me, debt is debt is debt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether you're paying a mortgage payment or a credit card payment or your utility bill or anything else. If you can eliminate a bill, you've eliminated a bill, period. End of story. And that money can go somewhere else. Even if you just throw it in your crappy big bank savings account, it's not going to someone else. It's staying with you. And that's a good thing. And then from there, you can decide what you want to do with it. You want to invest it in the stock market? Great. You want to add on to your house? Fantastic. You want to blow it and go on a cruise or a trip to Disney World? Go for it. But then it goes back to being your money and not somebody else's money. So I'd pay up the mortgage every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. But then you'll have others. Like I was doing my taxes this year with my uncle, and the tax laws have changed dramatically this year. And, refunds were a little less. And, my uncle kind of looks over at me. He's like, well, if you slide your mortgage, you'll be able to write off that mortgage, the mortgage interest. And I really have to bite my tongue because for me, I understand the nuances of it. But that's another thing that.
Let me jump in on that, though. Okay. Without getting too personal on the numbers, right? I don't want to know what you make or anything else. How much would you have written off versus how much did you not pay in your mortgage? I mean, don't tell me that you would have been able to write off.
No,
what
absolutely.
I'm guessing is in excess of, well, let's say I'll do my numbers, right? So my annual out of pocket housing payment cost, quick.
Back of the envelope, yeah.
Right. I mean, we're talking $40,000, right? Right. So you're telling me that I would have been able to. There's no way I can write off $40,000 in mortgage interest. There's no way. I mean, right?
Yeah.
I'm not an accountant. Am I wrong?
You're absolutely right, and that's where
I'm gonna carry $40,000 to $50,000 a year so I can write off what, 10?
No, you're 100% right. Yeah, you're 100% right, and that's been that's always been my argument. So that's where, and this comes back down to my last point is really the shame of the mortgage pay down. I know this sounds weird, right? But I don't mention it to certain people, right? Especially with family, right? I don't know if it's a weird stigma attached. I don't know why I might think that way, but it is kind of something that I feel weird about sometimes. I don't know why. Maybe because I can't even really explain it very well. I don't know if it's because everyone should have a mortgage, right? I guess that's maybe I feel odd that I don't have the mortgage anymore, and then people are like, why doesn't he have a mortgage? It's kind of odd in a weird way, and I have to kind of,
because he's smarter than everybody else.
I appreciate that. Yes, you're one of the very few that understand that. So
like I said, anybody who doesn't understand getting rid of a payment, it kind of needs their head examined.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. I am definitely in the same boat. So, but no, this was a healthy discussion. And I hope everyone out there listening to this podcast, for us, I don't know about you, Jody, it was very cathartic and enlightening. I was able to hear some of your pieces.
I'm happy to have been your rabbi.
Yeah, this has been very cool. And, I think that overall, the mortgage pay down, at least or the mortgage payoff or pay down, whatever you want to call it, is a smart thing. Some of you might disagree. And if you do, please feel free to email us, and we'll maybe share those on the next podcast and see what the feedback is.
Set up? Do you have that email set up?
Not yet, but we're working on it, right? We have our financialdads.com. Once again, we were talking about this podcast for a long time, and I'm trying to take, as Dave Ramsey would say, baby steps, right? So we want to get this first podcast buttoned up, and then we'll take it from there and move forward bit by bit, and hopefully very shortly we'll be on on Apple's podcast system, and I get a website going, and we'll just see where this takes us. I'm looking forward to the journey.
I'll design the t-shirts.
Perfect. Okay, great. So I guess with that, we'll wrap up this podcast. My name is Paul, and thank you for joining us today. And hopefully you'll listen to our podcast, comment back, and you will look forward to getting the next podcast out the door and this one out to the public. Thanks, Jody, and I'll let you have the last word, Jody.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Thanks, Paul, for setting this up.
Yep. Thank you. All right.